So what was our mind developed for? Well, it's developed to solve lots of problems, but primarily all of them come together into the following. If we're in generation 1, this current generation, we are trying to solve the problem of getting as many copies of our genes into the next generation and getting those genes, those copies of those genes, into the best position to get as many copies of their genes into that next generation there. Now, we may have lots of problems that we're solving, but they all contribute towards this. And so, of course, we can break this down a bit further. So we can break it down into two parts, which is firstly, that we need to survive long enough to be able to reproduce. And then secondly, we need to reproduce successfully. So within survival, we've got to do a whole series of things, such as we've got to avoid being eaten by predators. We've got to avoid succumbing to disease or being killed by rivals or enemies. And we've got to avoid starving to death. And we've also got to avoid being killed in terrible accidents. And we've developed thought processes to solve all of these things. But we've also got to balance all of these off against each other. So we've developed thought processes and decision-making mechanisms to do that as well. Now, in successful reproduction, first of all, we've got to attract a mate, which means we've got to provide a potential mate with proof of what they're interested in, which typically is demonstrating a good gene quality. So if we were a peacock, we would do that by demonstrating it with a tail. We also need to provide proof of that we're able to provide resources for bringing up the children. Against that, we also need to select a mate as well, which is largely the converse of that. And we're also into problems around extended parental care there of perhaps 10, 20 years. Problems that we have developed solutions for on that left-hand side there, we've become very good at it. But now in a modern world, what we are doing is we have an entirely different set of problems there around estimation and planning and so on. So how do we solve those problems? What thought processes do we use? Well, of course, we're using exactly the same thought processes. We're just taking them over. And this is what's causing us problems. And it's causing us these problems here. And we'll look at these problems here in a little more detail, and we'll see how thought processes or biases that we are using or developed on that left-hand side are causing these problems. One.